to do it now.
Dizzy, I call it dizzy, but things, yeah, oh, well, yeah.
All right, so now it's live streaming.
Well, we want to sit next to you. Yes. You want a Christian rights?
When we got in the car this morning, I said, so did you find anything? Oh, no, let me correct myself. Said, did you buy much at Patty's Market? Like, I'm sure she found lots of things she liked, but did she buy much? And she said she bought just one thing.
Not just one thing. Maybe she was being, it's me looking at her.
Right.
That image was hovering in her head.
Yes.
Oh, he's gonna tell me. He's gonna scold.
Right.
Or buying what, I was talking with Todd, I'm a stingy person.
Oh, boy. Love that.
I can believe it.
Or just reason.
See how well this works.
You're right. Yeah. I don't know if you heard that I'll be bringing dinner down for Carolyn.
Carolyn mentioned something about it. Yeah. Oh, it's very awesome.
Bringing dinner down.
You're.
Oh
The same kind of dinner.
yeah, what are we getting?
Carolyn's request,
Ah,
veggies and rice.
oh boy, lucky Carolyn.
And you.
She's better. She got some homeopathy. She keeps something. And just one train on and we've got one drain there.
Yes.
So yeah, it was. I don't know how she was. I'm just going with those issues. No, she's good. Driving us on.
She's not vegetarian though, is she? So we could slide her some brisket and
She doesn't need a lot of.
I asked her what she was in the mood for, figuring maybe she, I know she made some things and froze them for herself and whatnot. And I thought maybe she's in the mood for something different,
Yeah.
Mexican or Italian. And all she came back with was, some veggies. She was very hard on the way she said it, I reckon. I wouldn't turn away veggies and rice. Sure thing.
all right. Well, I don't know, probably whoever's here
Yeah.
is going to be here.
When did you start?
Next week.
Oh, yeah.
Chris said he was going to.
Yeah.
We will yet.
Hi.
I know.
Yeah, so I know I said this in the weekly update, but I'd hoped one of these days we'd be able to get Faith Green here in person to tell her story. But I don't think that's going to happen. She keeps running into some reason why she can't come. So, that's life. But
So how do you know her?
so, yeah, right. How do I know her? So years ago, I got into this group and I met Daniel Coates. And it's in that same group that I met
What group was that?
it was basically a meeting of people who liked spirituality. They wanted to talk spirituality in general terms. And I got invited to it through this woman who I met during my merchandising. It was, so it was, the merchandising job was very random as far as where I would go and what I would do. And so it was very rare if I would see somebody multiple times. And I kept bumping into this woman like every week. And I just felt like saying to her, I put her aside one time and said, hey, why is it I keep bumping into you and nobody else? What's the sign here? And so she's like, well, let's have a coffee and chat. And I'm like, all right. So we grabbed a coffee and she says, whoa, are you into spirituality? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I am. Yeah, exactly. So we have this nice little chat and kind of wondering, like, why has God brought us together? And she invites me into this group. She's my friend over in what suburb is that? Like Tarrant Point area. Has like once a Friday a month, group of people get together and we just sit around and chat about things. And so it's through that I met Daniel Coates, and I also met this woman named Karina Machado, who is a journalist. And so she was writing a book called Spirit Sisters. And the idea was women who've had some sort of spiritual experience, some sort of an encounter. And through meeting her, I had told her some of my story. And she goes, well, I actually would like to have your story. So we met for coffee. This is when Jen went to Toronto by herself 4 years ago. So she invites me out to coffee. I tell her my story and she's like, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. I don't really fit the Spirit Sisters side of her book. But through that, I hopped onto her podcast that she has, and I saw this near-death experience. So I'm sitting there in the office, I'll listen to this, and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And Faith Green lives up in Brisbane area. And so
Queensland, another state.
yeah, 10 hours north. And so yeah, we tried to get her to come down, and like her husband was going to come to Blue Mountains, and then COVID hits, and then
But she also had some health issues.
yeah, she had health issues, but COVID really made it complicated because like her kids had to move in with her, and basically she's like, I don't have a quiet place that I could do this.
Oh, to Zoom.
Yeah. So everything just kept not working. So I was like, all right, you know what? This is a really cool story. We're just going to sit here and we'll listen to it and talk about it. I was saying to Jen last week, I was trying to chop this up into little bite-sized segments that we could just listen to a clip and go back. But in my opinion, so much of it is so good that we're going to kind of just let it play for a bit. I'll skip around a little, but I haven't chopped it up other than just noting things for myself. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Such a long story.
Yeah. Well, it's, one of those things where that's how it goes. So anyway, trying to think where to begin this. So Faith says that before her near-death experience, she's open that she had some serious drug problems, very much addicted, and she developed a heart infection is where this begins. She was afraid to go to the doctors because she did not want to be exposed as a drug addict. So, of course, things get worse than they would have been if she had just kind of come clean, as it were. So by the time she actually gets to the hospital, there's enough internal bleeding that the doctors are saying, you're gonna die. You're not gonna make it. But she gets clean enough to have surgery, and they replace the aortic valve, and they give her a 20% chance of survival. She says, I had no relationship with God. She had a abusive relationship with an uncle as a child. Even though she was raised Catholic, she just kind of threw it all away because this is not squaring with her life experience. So drugs became an escape. And so that's the setup. And that skips 12 and a half minutes worth of it. So we'll get it. Oops. So let's pick it up about there. See what she says.
surviving were very, very same.
Oh, you know what? I need to make sure I share audio. Right. Come on. Share screen. Share sound. Yep. Expect. Okay.
And everything I loved in this world wasn't there.
Yes.
Matthew wasn't there, my children weren't there, and my mother was holding my hand, like broken, trying to be brave, and I said, I'm going to die, and she's like, no, you're not, Faith. And I told her to apologise to my children. I was very angry at Matthew. I blamed him for everything.
Okay.
I was such a victim. That's one thing I was a huge victim. I constantly felt sorry for myself. I didn't actually own anything. I didn't own any of my mistakes. I blamed God, if there was one, for giving me this horrible, horrible life. And I blamed Matthew for everything, including my heart infection. And I said to Mum, I'm done with him, break up with him. I don't want to see him again. And she took that literally. And then
So the big thing there is she's not taking any responsibility for her life. She then goes into a out-of-body state, can feel this peace and love.
So she's had the surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's post that, and she starts to feel like she can see things, like she can see people, but they're not responding to her.
And as I'm floating to the ceiling, I mean, I felt the most incredible peace and love and warmth that came from that light. I just wanted to go there. And then bang, I was sucked. It was like a vacuum. It just sucked me back in my body. The next thing I remember, it looked like to be the recovery room.
Yeah.
Now, this is hard to explain because I was in a coma.
Okay.
And I was in what I call purgatory. I could see the living and the dead, but I had no concept at the time that was the situation.
Okay.
Even though I was in a coma, very, very sick, eyes swollen shut, I felt like I could walk around, talk. Do you understand?
Yes.
I was
So you were.
I was
so you
completely conscious.
So if I was by your bedside, I would see you in a coma with your eyes swollen shut. But
sick,
in your experience, you were conscious.
trying to talk to you and get your attention, but you can't hear me.
Yes.
And I don't understand why you can't hear me.
Yeah.
I remember seeing two nurses in the corner of the room, and one was blonde, very pretty nurses, like very attractive. They were gowned up like nurses, like they had the gowns, the gloves on.
Yeah.
One had blonde hair, and the other one was Filipino in appearance, both Australian accents, and I could hear them talking about me, and I didn't understand. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying.
Yeah.
And then another nurse would walk in the room and attend to me and talk to those nurses. And when she'd walk in the room, the nurses would come and attend to my knees, and they would interact.
Okay.
And then the other nurse would walk away, and these nurses were talking about me, and I could hear words like, she's been marked, she's ours, you know, this bitch,
Oh my goodness.
this bitch is a fighter. And I'm thinking, why are they talking about me like that? Why are they calling me bitch? I didn't understand it.
So you had no concept that you were having an out-of-body experience.
No, I thought they were two nurses in the room who didn't like me or just really bad people.
Yes.
And they were saying things like, we nearly had her before, but she's a fighter, but we're being given orders, that's it. We're being given orders if she doesn't come soon to assist in her transition. And then as they were going through paperwork, they pulled a page up and I saw a black upside down crucifix. Now, being from a Catholic background, I know that means that's evil, that's satanic.
That's
and
chilling.
that got my attention, and I yelled out to them, what does that mean? Why is there an upside down crucifix on my paperwork? And as I did, they both stopped. Mind you, I've been trying to talk to the other nurses and they couldn't hear me.
Right, yeah.
And I just assumed they wouldn't. I just reacted to what I was seeing.
Yes.
And they both stopped and then turned and looked at me and then realised this bitch can hear us. And that's exactly what one of them said, this bitch can hear us.
Oh my
Then they
gosh.
started to laugh.
Oh my gosh.
Like, ha, 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 ha. Like, really, but it was insidious. It was, and you got to imagine really attractive women, like that's why, who dressed as nurses, insidiously laughing, getting enjoyment out of my suffering and my confusion. And they said, I said, what does it mean? What's it? Why do you want to hurt me? I was trying to understand.
Yes.
And then they said, well, you fucked it up, Faith. You fucked up, excuse my language, but I'm going to just tell you
just
exactly
say it
what
as it
they
is.
said
That's
to me.
okay.
You fucked it up, Faith. You fucked your life up on earth and you've been marked. I said, what do you mean I've been marked? And they said, you've been marked for hell. You're going to hell. We're just waiting for you to die. And at first I was horrified. And then I was more in disbelief because I still, even though they're saying these things to me, I still saw them as nurses trying to hurt me. I wasn't actually comprehending what they were actually saying to me.
Yeah.
Pause there. So imagine that, right? You go to a hospital to have some surgery done and you think the hospital staff is trying to kill you. And yeah, right. You know, you've effed it up, right? So, you know, this is a big deal, right? You know, because when we think about it from a new church point of view, you know, we talk about spirits that are with us all the time, putting thoughts into our heads. And, you know, when, you know, if you actually saw who was putting thoughts into your heads, like what's happening here, it would be a lot easier to say, oh, go away. You know, when I don't want to hear what Hyun Jin has to tell me, I just say, go away, go back into the back of the morse room, leave me alone. You know, I don't want to hear it. But when it's in our own head, or when we think it's in our own head, it's a lot harder to turn that thought away. So she's getting an experience here, and she's not quite clued in yet as to what's really happening, right? She's not there yet, but she's going to find that figured out real soon.
So when she said another nurse came in, that was a real nurse?
Yeah. So there's both real nurses and and you know, when you read a lot of these out-of-body experience stories, this is a common phenomenon, right? Where they're going to see the physical world, but they also see entities that exist in this higher realm. And
so she's not actually died and being resuscitated, so she's right on the edge.
Yep.
You don't hear many stories. You do hear people talk about out of body. You think of it as being a separate kind of a precursor to it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And
my mother, she had various operations, and she reported it out of body.
Really?
She's up here looking down and working on it. It's quite a common thing.
It is. And these out-of-body experiences, you know, you're trying to talk to somebody who's in the physical and they're not responding, you know, you're basically a ghost, you know.
Yeah.
So all right, we'll continue on. If you ever want me to just stop, just say something and we'll pause it.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you whether, you know how they see this light and they get sent back. I can't tell you what her experience was after the operation. So I might ask Marielle and Sylvia if they can remember.
Right. That'd be cool.
That I'm going to hell.
Yes.
I just thought they were trying to kill me. They tormented me, Karina. They tormented me in ways of pulling awful childhood memories, telling me this is what your God. They really wanted me to turn on God. They wanted me to renounce him. They wanted me to blaspheme him. And they did. It was like they were trying every trick in the book. But the funny thing was when another nurse would come in the room to attend to my needs, they would just behave normal. So this confused me a lot because
you're between
So I think that's a really interesting point. You know, we want you to turn on God. I mean, isn't that the whole story of the book of Job? Right? We want you to turn on God, curse him, hate him. And, you know, it was a quick comment, but she says that these nurses are bringing up old childhood memories. Let's bring up the past where you were abused. Let's bring up the past where something bad happened. Let's see, oh God, loving God wouldn't do these things, right? That's the devil's playbook right there. Bad things happen, therefore God doesn't exist, or if he does, he's not nice.
two worlds.
Afterwards,
Yeah.
because I don't understand how the other nurses can see them. Like, I'm still trying to process that part of it. But where was I? Sorry, this happens.
That's okay. So the other nurse came in and attended.
Yeah,
they'd been bringing up. They were trying to get you to renounce God, which is interesting because, as you said earlier, you didn't have a faith that you were aware of.
No,
but they knew something about you.
Well, obviously, they wanted me to completely. I think they were lying to me and manipulating me. They were making me believe that if I died, they were taking me. That was all there was to it. There was nothing I could do. They took my hope away. And without hope, what do you have?
Yes.
But I'm the kind of person, I went back to North Corner, I come out fighting. So I got angry. I got really angry and I started trying to attack them. I mean, physically. If they came near me, I would scratch at them. But mind you, at this stage, I still didn't realise they were actual demons. It wasn't until one of them touched me that I actually got to see what they really were. When she put a hand on me, it was ice cold. And then I got a glimpse of her eyes. And at first, just looking at, like, from the side, it looked reptilian. And then it just went black. And then the other eyes went black. And I realised straight away what I was dealing with. These were demons. And I said, "These are demons." Then they laughed even more, like mocking me for being stupid, for not working it out earlier. Right. It was all about belittling and mocking.
Yes.
And the hate. They hated my guts. I mean, they tortured me mentally the entire time, but they would also torture me by telling me when I did die.
So just a pause there, Annika. A new church tie-in, right? Swedenborg says how hellish beings look different in the light of hell versus the light of heaven, right? And that's what she's experienced there. Oh, in the light of the world, they looked like attractive women. But when she got close enough, touched them, then she sees them almost in the light of hell and sees their true selves. You know, the writings tell us that people in hell can look attractive to each other. And it's one of the Lord's mercies that they don't look as disfigured as they really are to each other. So she gets a glimpse of that kind of reality.
Actually, before that part, they were talking about how they were going to kill me to help assist in my transition. And they came up with a plot to inject an infection in my line. And I remember the blonde nurse when she was flicking the syringe to inject the infection in my line. I remember pulling at my cords, trying to make them into a hose so it would stop the flow of infection. I mean, I was physically, and I actually pulled out.
Get that?
IV lines.
Yeah, so these demonic beings are trying to give her an infection through the medicine. And
which they can't really do.
Right. So
well, unless they're going to get into one of the other nurses and put it in their mind.
Well, keep listening. That's the plan.
Stomach catheters, cords, tubes.
So
I mean,
in your body,
I was actually
you were doing this. You were
physically.
So if I had been at your bedside at that moment, I would have seen you thrashing about.
Oh yes, they actually put a sign up above my bed: "Dangerous patient."
Okay.
To be careful because I attacked so many nurses. I pulled out so many cords. In the end, they had to strap me,
Oh my gosh.
my hands and feet to the bed, which was terrifying
Oh.
because even though I was strapped in, it was like I was strapped in, even though my soul was aware of what was going on in the afterworld.
Yes.
I was still strapped in. So I thought they had even easier access to me.
Wow.
There was one time, this beautiful black African man walked in my room. He was a nurse. And when he walked in, they fled. They couldn't be near him.
So, sorry, Faith, was this a real, as in the physical?
Well, yes, physical, I don't know.
Okay,
because I never saw him again.
Ah, okay.
Funny that I never saw him again after I woke up from my coma, and there was a lot of nurses there I recognised.
Okay.
And I would even say, you said this or you said that.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God, really? Because they were blown away that I actually, being so sick, I was in a coma, but I was aware of what was going on. But I never saw him again.
Okay.
I did see him again, but
so what
not
happened
in the physical sense.
When he walked in? The others fled?
The demons left,
Okay.
instantly left, and I'd get some peace. And his aura was magnificent, and he was just so kind and so loving. And I just thought he was a lovely nurse, you know, and he would leave. But he was always around. I could always see him in the background around.
Wow.
My mum came in. I remember this one day my mum came in, and this is when I started to work out auras. People who had the auras were good, and the demons didn't have auras.
Okay.
They had no colour coming from them.
Okay.
No light, nothing.
No light.
So that's when I knew when a demon would come in, I was dealing with evil, not a nice nurse.
Yeah.
So I was telling Jen about the George Ritchie near-death experience, and we've talked about it here probably been years ago, but he reports a very similar thing about auras and his experience out of the body, and he ends up at a pub and basically sees all these people drinking, gambling, smoking, you know, all the typical pub vices. And as they would indulge in these things, like their auras would contract, and that he's like, that's how evil spirits, demons would get into these people, and bar fights and things like that would erupt. And so George Ritchie was very clear that, drugs do something to make us more susceptible to evil influences, which I guess is why you see things like that happen in pubs. But so she's basically backing it up and saying that, when we, engage in these things, it just makes us all the more susceptible to it.
My mum came in and started praying for me, and she, being Catholic, is a big believer in scapular medals and protection medals.
So you're still wearing them today. I can see you. Our listeners can't see you, but I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never taken them off since. She wanted to put them around my neck. I remember the nurse saying you can't because of the equipment and tubes. So she pinned them on me.
Okay.
And as soon as she did, the demons didn't come near me again.
So
they didn't
come
near me again.
They were gone.
I got peace.
Yeah.
I actually got some peace, and I remember, I guess you could say this is the most enjoyable part of my coma, watching my son come in. I remember seeing his face. He was terrified. He was so shocked to see me like that. He was so scared. And I remember him saying,
Sorry?
Any idea what age?
The son is? No, I really don't. But I think I'd guess teenager, but I don't know for sure. What I will mention though is, you said you catch the thing about these medals, like her mother comes in and gives her these, like, yeah. And it's like, what, that actually worked?
Well, I thought that her mom intuited or perceived that she needed some kind of protection, I think.
I hadn't thought of that. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing her mom saw the thrashing as she was battling something, maybe. I don't know. But I wonder if she did.
Maybe she had some sort of belief in them from a Catholic background or something.
Yeah, the mother, that would make sense for the mother. Yeah.
Maybe Faith had some historical faith in her somewhere.
Right. But regardless, it worked. Yeah. Sure. But all that said, she did those things and it worked. You know, that's to me is like, oh wow, you know, I've always kind of regarded that stuff as just kind of meh, you know, do it if you like it, but you know, it's kind of nothing. But that's not what she is saying.
Tension behind it
Yeah,
must have worked.
I feel like,
You know what I mean?
Hmm?
How do we know the connection?
yeah, I feel like any number of different things could have worked depending on what the person believes, kind of thing. Yeah, but with the intention, yeah.
So this is happening over a period of time or even
This is
days,
while she's
is
in a
it?
coma.
Well, but like, it sounds like a day. I mean, not a long.
Yeah, she's in hospital after operation. She's in a coma.
She's in,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That didn't register.
Okay.
I love you, Mumsa, because that's what he calls me.
Oh.
And he put this little ring on my finger. I remember one of my girlfriends coming in. She pretended to be my sister to get in. And she whispered in my ear that she was pregnant, and I was the first person she had told.
So this was in your coma, and then later you were able to validate. You were able to, when you woke up.
It all happened.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
But it was being in a coma. I was completely conscious and aware of everything, everything that was going on,
and more. You were aware of more.
Everything, and you can see everything in 3D. I mean, I could even see. It was strange, even though I was in my bed, I could see what was going on down in the hall and what nurses were on. I mean, it was really strange.
Right.
I was not aware that I was very sick.
Okay.
Tubed up in a coma. I was not aware at all. So I had a lot of moments of peace. Still didn't call out to God. I'm frustrated at myself because I bought into the demons' lies. I believed them that God had given up on me. I believed them that I'd been marked to go to hell, and my only thought was to survive so I could get a chance to get good with God for real.
So, yeah, right. The big one there. She believed that the lies, right? She believed that God had given up on her. And, you know, isn't that like the exact opposite of new church teachings? You know, God never, ever, 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 ever gives up on you. No matter what you've done, no matter how bad it's been, you know, God doesn't give up.
But being a new church person in that coma, I'd be believing those demons too. Easy to do.
When she said about the friend that comes out and tells her she's pregnant, it reminded me of Owen and I just looked at each other. I don't know whether you thought the same thing, but when I was pregnant with Rachel, I think I was, but his grandma Fletcher was in a coma. She had a stroke and in hospital and wasn't going to survive really. But Owen would go, I get emotional because he would go and talk to her and tell her all the things that were going on, and I couldn't done that.
Right.
I was kind of saw her and it upset me, and I couldn't. But he would go and just talk. Remember that? How you could tell her everything that was happening, and you probably told her I was pregnant. I can't remember the overlap, but Rachel's second name is actually named after her.
Right.
His grandma Fletcher. That's more like the one who all the New Church Life, Church News before she married his grandfather. Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
you really believed she could hear you, didn't you? It's not quite the same as maybe that is maybe.
Gladys was pastor at the time. I know he gave one sermon on angels. She got very animated. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are precious moments. Yeah. I remember my mom's last night. We were all sitting around watching a show that she liked. You know, she was out of it.
Yeah, she was on a hospital bed.
And and Dad was saying the same thing, like, you know, hey, she knows, she can hear us, she knows what's going on, and so just, you know, behave accordingly. You know.
There's a lot of stories, aren't there? I also think Christine Taylor, she had a brain aneurysm, and she was kind of, they knew she would last very long, but the family came in and were singing her, because she was, Christine Taylor was the wife of one of the ministers who used to be. She was very musical, and they would sing her favourite hymns, and they totally could.
No, cute.
They knew she was.
Oh, precious.
And she only, I don't know, a few days, but
Wow.
and the one other thing I think that is Gay Kennedy. She had a near-death experience. It was a birth of one actually, but she, like this lady, she'd gone up and could see people in waiting rooms and whatever, and then was able to tell them afterwards, you said this and you were, and they just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So that was the first baby. It didn't survive. It was something.
Yeah, the
about
final figure, you know, like that. Yeah, that one. Yeah, where the cord is outside. Yeah, she had several operations. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's.
Well, and what's so interesting about those kind of accounts where like she's seeing into another room or whatever, is that people who are skeptics, they say, oh, well, these near-death experiences, they're all just a hallucination. Well, you can't hallucinate into another room. You know? Exactly.
Not long before, sorry. She had an experience a few days before she died, and I was with her in the hospital room, and she pointed up and she said there's somebody up there. And, yes,
I find that really interesting. There's some pre-death where one foot's in the spiritual world. Exactly. Your dad was the same thing. Remember, Laurie saw him a few days beforehand, and he.
Oh, it was closer than that. I think it was only the day before.
No, maybe it was. Yeah, I was in America.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He saw people that had passed. Yeah, I think he might have seen.
Yeah, have to ask the Laurie.
Yeah.
Like to get the full thing.
So he died right around the time he was born. So.
Sorry?
He died right around the time.
Yes, when I was over in America for nothing, and yes, I'll never forget the phone call.
Yeah, right.
Ange and Shell were both with me at the time, and we were at Glencare. Where that's now the museum. No, not Glencare, the other one. Kenwood. Because Ange used to work in the cathedral garden, and all her friends had kind of met, and we were just walking up to say hello. He gets his phone call, and his dad's passed.
But I wasn't there. I was in Australia.
Yeah. You, oh, sorry, you rang me. Yeah, I was saying, you rang me. Yes, that was quite cut my holiday short, but I'd had a good time, and now it's been a month. And I did all the things. I still had time to go to Kempton. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, were you going to say?
Oh, something very important, but back to the skeptics. What was it?
Skeptics.
Yeah, skeptics. I think a couple of scientists, or I don't know, medical or psych, I have no idea, but they try to contrive a research where they were examining, something. So how it went, I don't know what the outcome was, but how they did was, so let's say there are some people in hospital or in coma, or whose survival rate is like 50%. So they are, we're assuming this person might be dying and coming back with the out of body experiences. What they did was they would put a book somewhere high so that the person can ever see.
Right.
And when they come out of that state or, just come back alive, they're gonna ask, did you ever see a book? I don't know how the research or examination
Right.
done, but yeah. So
But in a way, that's don't really prove anything, because I would think if you're out of body, you'd be seeing things that meant something to you, and not necessarily be looking
right.
for all the bits and pieces that are around in the room.
Yeah, well, I noticed that. I was noticing the demons finally.
But, yeah, that's interesting.
It looked like a long class, isn't it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to go to 2 weeks on this, but that's all right. And so just you can see that this is part one, right? There's another 45 minutes of podcast, which frankly isn't as interesting as part one, but we have plenty of material if we want it.
That was my mind state. And then I died for the second time. Okay. I remember I'd been moved from this stage, because I remember even being moved from, I was moved into intensive care, and it was a single room. I remember where the nurses' desks, there was a nurse right at my door. Mm-hmm. My mum was in the room. I remember floating up above my body and the nurse jumping up. I must have been coding.
Oh, okay.
I remember feeling such beautiful peace.
Wow.
And the first thing that came to my mind is, oh, my God, there's life after death.
Wow.
Like I was just in a state of shock. I thought, oh, my God, it's for real. It's for real. I was excited.
Yeah.
And I'm watching them work on me, and I'm seeing my mum starts crying. She grabs her phone, and she had rosary beads in one hand and she had the phone in the other, and she's crying. And the nurses are trying to push her out gently without saying, let us just work on her. I remember looking at myself in that coma. I remember being shocked about how swollen my face was. My face was so swollen. I didn't even look like me. Like, that was a shock. I remember thinking, oh, my God, that's you. Like, I had to really take it in. That was me. Then I remember being above Westmead. I just kept floating up.
Yeah.
And I could see where the helicopter pad was. I mean, the detail was unbelievable. Then all of a sudden, I'm right at the edge of the blue, looking at the earth, and then I go straight up into space. And as I'm floating in the space, I'm in the universe. I'm looking down at our world, our planet, and all the secrets of the universe were exposed to me. It's like
cool, huh?
How do I explain it? It's like someone plugging you in full of information and it all just making sense, and you understand everything. And
it's a common thing in near-death experiences for that to happen. And I've actually wished.
Are you talking about the universe?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the ineffability of it.
No, I get all the secrets of the universe downloaded into my brain, but they can't bring them back, right? Like it
must be that's God coming in.
Yeah. And
pure love or whatever.
I wish that over my years of finding these stories, I had actually made like an index of the ones that had that experience. Because I think it's something we don't normally associate with a near-death experience. It's just this download of, now I get it. Now I understand. But it's real. So remember that.
in that moment, I understood there is a God.
Oops.
God. Oh my God, I got it wrong. And as I'm floating up, everything just stopped and I started to fall. And as I'm falling at speed lighting, like falling. And as I'm falling, the smell is the first thing I could smell.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
falling into a dark hole. The smell and the stench was like nothing, like I could throw up even just thinking about it.
Oh
It was
my
that
gosh.
disgusting.
Oh wow, Faith.
And as I'm falling, all I can hear is laughter. And there's so many demons laughing. We got her. And laughing with such delight and enjoyment, and then screaming profanities at me, the most horrific names and telling me what they're going to do, and I'm still falling into hell. And I realised I was falling into hell. And I'm trying to hold on to stop myself, and as I'm holding onto the walls are just all cockroaches, spiders, snakes,
Oh my
scorpions,
gosh.
you name
Oh my
it.
gosh.
Every disgusting insect on this world biting
gosh.
me.
That's
So
awful.
I'm still trying to hold on. And as I'm falling, this part's really powerful. As I'm falling and in terror, I can feel God's essence, everything that is good in me and his faith and is beautiful, being taken, because nothing good can go to hell. You're only left with the evil. So it was.
So that's a really big new church point right there, isn't it? Right?
She figured this out herself. Well, I mean,
It was
heard
given
of
to
something
her.
or whatever.
Right. All the good in me is being taken away. And wow, that's doctrine of vastation right there. All the good just being pulled out because nothing can good go to hell. I mean, that's the whole Revelation, book of Revelation process, right? God's extracting all the good, saving whatever good he can throughout this process. And then if you still reject, you can go, but he's pulling. He's constantly lowering the bar. Let's get all right. Come on, who's willing to do this a bit of good? Okay, you two can come, right? Yeah. So there's just need that little bit of good, right?
Like the essence of God was leaving me, and I could feel it. And as the essence of God is leaving me, the demons that were in me, because I was evil. In the 18 months before my surgery, I'd done some bad things, and I really did deserve to be there, Karina. I did. I screwed up. I majorly screwed up, and I deserved to be there. And I'm falling into hell. I'm hearing these demons and the smell, and I'm feeling God's essence, and I'm trying to scream out, I'm sorry, God, I love you, forgive me. And as I say it, the demons take my voice over, and they're like, I love Satan.
Oh no.
And I'm trying to fight this, and I'm like, no, I don't mean that, God. I love you, Satan would come out.
Oh
And
my
it was
gosh.
like this battle, internal battle of, I don't know what, but there was a lot of evil, and as God's leaving me, it was taking me over. And in the end, I just screamed, and I meant it with every part of my being. Forgive me, God, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's so powerful, Faith.
And I meant it, Clean, I meant it. And then bang, I'm back in the universe. And I look down and I can see the earth. And it's just like space pictures, but it's even more beautiful.
Oh.
More beautiful.
That's amazing.
All right. So going down, 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 like a fire, right? Going down, down, down. And what I find fascinating about it is the power of prayer. Because the writings, they don't always make me feel like prayer has any real usefulness. I just did one of the short videos, and it's that moment of Moses and the crossing of the Red Sea. The Lord says, well, why are you crying out to me? And what Swedenborg writes about that passage is, well, many people get into a state of spiritual trial. They cry out to the Lord, not realizing that their prayers do nothing. That sometimes, we have to fight the battle with the Lord's power, but we have to fight the fight. We can't be just passive participants. And so a near-death experience, though, here she is at the most critical juncture of her existence, and it's the power of prayer that saves her. And again, I've seen this in other near-death experiences where somebody's having a hellish experience, and it's through sincere prayer that it gets them out of there. So, and there was one. She gets into more of it later, so I don't want to spoil it.
These seances that people go to make contact. I heard of one where there's a group of them, they're all holding hands or whatever they do. and they were going to make contact, and somebody was going to, the person that was sort of in charge, whatever, he was going to show all these people how you could make contact. And there was one person in the group who obviously was finding it, I don't think I should be here, or something like that. And he started saying the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah, right.
And the guy who's running it, it wasn't working. And he said, there's somebody in here who is
Interfering.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never heard the story like that before. So a guy's trying to run a seance. One of the participants says, I'm not comfortable with this. Says the Lord's Prayer in his head, I guess.
Yeah, in his head over and over again.
And therefore the contact couldn't happen. And the leader says, somebody's messing this up.
Yeah,
wow.
basically.
Is that the story about Alana Napoleon? No, that's a different one. Because I remember Alana was in Africa, when Alana Napoleon, the French minister, yeah. He and his wife worked in Africa for a while when they moved a new church. And there was I don't know the full story, but there was something about witch doctors, something about they didn't like what Alana was doing. And all these witch doctors are kind of pointing the bone, basically.
Yeah.
And the Lord's Prayer is what he said. He just kept saying Lord's Prayer over and over again. And that's what reminded me of it.
Pointing the bone.
Yeah, and apparently in Africa there's quite strong things that
yeah, Australia, the Aborigines, that sort of thing happens. So pointing the bone.
Yeah, that happens.
You know, Ian Idris, those books that he wrote.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something in it.
Yeah, I've heard that with Africa as well, that there's definitely a stronger connection there.
That veil is thinner. Seems to be in places closer to the equator, the veil is thinner.
Oh, okay.
I remember having a couple of college classmates who lived in tropical areas, and they had, a thinner veil than me from Canada.
Yeah, is that though equator, or just that's because they have a very religious culture?
Well, sure. I don't know.
So anyway, on we go.
And I see this vibration coming off the world. And it is powerful, beautiful.
Oh, wow.
The most beautiful sound I've ever heard. And this vibration is letting off this energy of light. And, sorry.
So it's the vibration is sound and light.
It was prayer. Then I could hear it. And the vibration was everybody in the world who's praying. And all the prayer and all that energy coming from people's prayer is giving me this energy boost, and it was lifting me up to heaven. And I hear my mum's prayers, I hear my nan's prayers, I hear strangers, people praying for me. And like I said, my mum and my family's prayers got me up there. And as the more the praying happened, the more I was lifted and lifted and lifted. And then bang, I was there, I got there. And as I'm getting into heaven, the beautiful black nurse was standing there.
You saw him again. Wow.
I said, oh my goodness, it's you. He said, welcome home, Faith. And he made a joke. I can't remember. It was sort of like, you had us worried there for a minute.
Oh, wow.
And he just started laughing, and there's all these people there, and they're just, welcome home, Sister Faith. They called you sister, brother and sister.
Okay.
Sister Faith, and they're hugging me, and I'm recognizing some, and some I don't recognize at all.
Okay.
But they knew me, and the joy. Now, this is sort of like, how do I explain it? It's so hard to put into words because it's so unbelievable. But so there are pearly gates, but they're not pearly, they're magnificent,
Okay.
magnificent gates.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, as I was taken into the sort of the section, the beginning of heaven.
Yeah.
Now, the roads are paved of gold.
Oh my goodness.
The grass is like green velvet of like this. Everything is so perfect in heaven. Like, I can't explain it. And
Yes.
everything's alive, living. God
Yes.
created it. It's all alive and feeling. There's no death. Like the flowers
Yeah.
are the most magnificent flowers you've ever seen, but they sing.
Oh, wow.
God let me have this gaze, and I got to see, I mean, there's mountaintops. The water is crystal clear and beautiful.
Sorry, Faith, tell me a bit more about the singing flowers.
Oh, okay.
They sound so beautiful.
The flowers sing the most incredible songs, and it's as the breeze goes over them, the breeze sort of, you can it's hard to explain. You can see, you can sort of see the song, not just hear it, but you can see it. The smells and the perfumes, I mean, the scents are unbelievable. Colours, I can't even describe to you.
So I like Karina, I like the singing flowers, and it's, you know, I couldn't find a passage in the writings that says this, but there's something about how things are alive. Everything's alive in heaven.
Heaven and hell, and I don't know the number, but it's in the 400s, I think.
Yeah.
There's a passage about them laughing and playing, and
The flowers?
not specifically flowers, but everything. Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I have this idea in my head that, yeah, in heaven, everything's alive.
Yeah.
You know, well, I guess flowers here are alive too, but, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And
Heaven, because I was also shown other things, but it sort of came later, because I still wasn't like, I was there, but I had to go through my judgment.
Oh, so this is your life review. Tell us about that, because I'm always fascinated by the life review.
God let me see heaven, but like I said, there was a section at the front where I had to go through my life review.
Okay.
What an angel comes down with a book, okay? And it's the book of my life. And there's people there. Now, I never saw Jesus, but I knew he was there. He was everywhere. But I never got to actually see Jesus. Yeah. But Jesus was there. Maybe when I finally got to go to heaven, that would have happened.
Yes.
But during my review, there was a lot of men, long white beards. I knew who they were up there, but I can't tell you who they are now.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes,
I knew exactly who they were.
Absolutely, yeah.
And but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And they opened, and there was other people there that loved me, like family members or friends that I knew, but I'd never met.
Okay.
Funny.
Yeah.
But they knew me, and I knew who they were.
Yes.
Intimately at the time.
Some sort of soul connection. Yeah, amazing.
They were there, and the book of life opens up, and as it opens up, there's a sky in heaven, sort of like on earth, but a trillion times better.
Wow.
This light soared out as they opened the book. It just soared up, and the entire sky became like a movie camera, like a video. So I'm watching my entire life from birth up until I died on this on the sky.
It's like a screen. It's like the sky.
It's like a screen, and you see everything.
Yeah.
You see every mistake. You see, it's humbling.
Yeah.
You see, I felt shame, a great shame. I felt very stupid, the choices I made. You see the bad things, but then you also see the good things and the things that were huge to them. Like, I don't remember it all, but I remember.
So this is really important what she says here. This is really good.
There's some real key points.
Yeah.
I remember being shown how brave I was when I was a little girl, because my uncle used to get flogged. He was younger than me. We were like siblings. Brutally by my grandfather, who was very violent, and he would flog him with a belt, just lash after lash. My uncle would just roll around, and I used to dive on top of him and wrap my body around him, so my pop would stop belting him.
Right.
Now, I didn't really think that was a big deal, but in heaven, that was huge.
Yes.
That was a courageous act that I did without even thinking.
Yeah.
Just acts of kindness to people who were being bullied at school. And I was showing little things that I'd done for people that I thought was nothing, but how it changed their lives. There was one girl I used to go to TAFE with, and she was bullied unmercifully. And she was really pretty, but she used to dress like a boy, and she had no sense of style and just was so shy and introvert. And I don't know, I just felt for her. So I gave her a makeover and I started taking her out. And a couple of years later, I saw her, we caught up again, and she thanked me for giving her confidence and, you know, showing her how to be a girl, that she only had a dad. He never really taught her, and she, you know, she had a great boyfriend and she was a different person. And I didn't even think twice. I was really shocked to see that, because
so it's the little things, that count.
That's what counts. Little acts of kindness. I mean, big things do too.
Yes.
But it's the things you do without thinking, or things you do because from your heart, that counts, and everything's recorded.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good stopping place, because she changes gears after that. But I really like that. You know, it's these little things that matter. And it matters more than you realize. You know, you can imagine her as a young woman helping some kid out, and just, oh yeah, here, let's help you get cleaned up and looking nice, whatever. And it's a nothing for her, but it makes a big deal of difference for that friend. You know, you'll notice in that life review, they never asked her, what do you believe? How much money you make? What did you do for a living? You know, none of those things that we put so much value on. Right. It's, you know, and I think the new church does a good job of teaching that, but sometimes it's one of those things we don't always let it really sink into our hearts and souls. So there's plenty of more good stuff here, but you get some of the highlights this week, I guess.
One thing I remember, I'm pretty sure it is from Celestia number 700 or 800. I think I've never seen a part in the Heavenly Doctrine that describes what a vegetation looks like in the other world. The depiction given in that part, I've read it and actually translated in Korean for years ago, so I can't really present what you know, the details of it. But the way our vegetation, we might think, okay, you know, we kind of have another chance there. Even if we have some bad sides of us, we go there and there will be a process called desiccation, and you know, something bad is gonna be taken away and all that. But what I read in that part is more serious, and it can be really horrifying, just like you know, Faith had you know, saw there. Maybe not there, but because you know, everything in the spiritual world is going to be manifested, you know, manifested in the forms that corresponds to whatever the thoughts or affection, you know, we have. So something horrifying we have, it's going to be manifested as something horrifying. And let's say we have some bad idea, like you know, if there isn't God, or God is, you know, allowing something really, you know, horrendous onto us, or something like that. So those thoughts are gonna be appearing, something really bad, and we're able to see what kind of, you know, so read for yourself. If you're like, it's real, then we think.
Well, and one of the things that she says in the later about the life review is how the whole point of the life review in this process is just to get her to acknowledge the areas where she went wrong. It's not to just tell her she's a bad person, but just trying to develop that humility and that sense of, okay, I need to listen, I need to learn, I need to change, and I can't just keep doing what I'm doing, and it's okay. So yeah, it can be a horrible process if you don't own up to what it is you've done. But when you have, if somebody dies and they get to their side and the angels say, well, gee, you really shouldn't have been beating your children or whatever it is. And the person says, yeah, I know. It's not a horrible process because they've already learned. It's when they haven't learned that it becomes that horrible process. So
I think the point of the Lord's Prayer, it wasn't like, okay, I'm in a bad situation and I'm going to pray this, so I'm gonna go up. I think the point is, she was going through all that, and that whole process really led her into a state of really humility. I want the Lord.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. She finally saw what her behaviors were actually like.
Yeah, and the opposite would be, if she didn't see that, then she really was evil, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I'm gonna end the Zoom side of this thing. So Margaret and anybody who's on YouTube, we'll catch you later and see you Sunday or next